morning, everyone. On behalf of the International Society for Educational Leadership, MIT ADT University, and the organizing team of this conference, I deem it my great pleasure in welcoming you all to this panel discussion on the theme Revitalizing ELT through Technology. Once upon a time, my friends, window was just a small square hole in a house. When application was something written on a piece of paper, when keyboard was the piano, when mouse was just an animal, when file was an important official document and hard drive was a very long, hectic road trip, when cut was done with a knife and paste with glue, when web was a spider's house and virus was glue. And mind you, apple and blackberry were only fruits. Gone are those days. Today, all these words that I just cited have additional meanings attached to them. This is how technology has influenced the way we communicate, the way we live, and even the way we think. And education is no exception. And therefore, to teach or not to teach using technology is no longer a question, especially in the new normal of teachnology. Yes, teaching with technology. Because what we witnessed during the pandemic, we had to move from offline to online. And that was like an opportunity in disguise for many of us as ELT experts and teachers, because we could see this transformation where universities and colleges became places where students started taking their responsibility for their own learning. They are now constantly engaged in higher order thinking skills and activities. They are working collaboratively to solve problems that have never been before solved. And now learning is not bound to a particular schedule. Classrooms utilize spaces in the most meaningful ways. And the teacher is not the only center of attention, like being the sage on the stage. And the possibilities are endless. And this is how the future is going to be. So this changing scenario, if we look at this, if we keep an eye on this changing scenario, we find that there are multiple expectations from all these stakeholders, which have now increased. And the growing use of technology in teaching is seen. So this is the new normal. And this new normal also provides us with ample opportunities and resources for learning and teaching, even research for the sake of research. We also need to accelerate this change with the new paradigm shifts that we are witnessing. And therefore, we also now need to prepare our students for life after school. And these children, these students have exceptional needs. So when we talk about these three important aspects of teaching, learning, and evaluation, the focus in this panel discussion is going to be how we can revitalize ELT by using technology. Because when we talk of learning, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at his or her 20s or 80s, because it's a lifelong process. And as it is said that those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. Further, it is said that the illiterate of the 21st century are not going to be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And therefore, skilling and reskilling are the need of the hour. And if we teach today's students the way we taught yesterday's, we rob them for tomorrow. And therefore, as ELT experts and teachers, we need to have tested models of using technology in ELT. So ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing panel with us today for this panel discussion, and I'm thrilled to welcome them all. To make this session more engaging, we'd like all the participants to actively listen to our panelists and ask them questions at the end, as we have reserved 10 minutes for Q&A session. Let us see if the participants are really active, because we have been listening to many speakers since morning. We'd like all the participants to list and share in the chat box at least 2 best technological resources or tools that they use in the ELT classroom. That will make our discussion more engaging. So please feel free to do that through the chat box. To discuss this further, we are indeed glad to have expert panelists with us today. And let me take this opportunity now to invite our first expert speaker, Dr. Tarun Patel, who works as Assistant Professor of English at Government College of Engineering, Gujarat. And before I request him to take over, we'd like to play his brief AV. So I'm just sharing the screen. Let us watch his AV.
Tarun Patel is an assistant professor of English and communication skills at Government Engineering College, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. He's the founder of ELT Weekly, India's first e-newsletter for teachers of English and technical advisor of International Society for Educational Leadership. He has completed his B.Ed, ME and MPhil in English language teaching and PhD in English. He is a member of English Language Teachers Association of India, LTI. He is an editor of ELT Voices, ELT Weekly, Technology in ELT, TESOL Journal, ICT in Education International Journal. He is also an editor and contributor of Communication Weekly. His recent publications include 6 games for your next English class, using Facebook to extend communication with English language learners, how to deliver your next presentation with confidence, and smile while presenting, to name a few. He has presented papers and was invited as resource person in several national conferences. He has organized various international and national conferences. We are honored to have Tarun Patel with us today.
Thank you for your attention. Over to you, Tarun sir. I request you to throw light on this topic for the next couple of minutes. Over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Atul. Welcome, Dr. Ramesh Chander Sharma and Eric. We are glad to have you with us. And we are sure we are going to share something that matters to all the participants that we have from across the globe. As the panel discussion focuses on the theme that we have for the conference this year, Revitalizing ELT through Technology. And we have seen the revitalization of the whole education system through technology in the past 2.5 years, right? So here, in my part, I will be focusing on digital technologies in education during and post-pandemic, and what are the lessons that we have learned. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated inequalities in education system across the world. According to a UNESCO report, about 40% of low and lower middle income countries did not have supported learners at risk of exclusion during the crisis, such as the poor, linguistic minorities, and learners with the disabilities. During the height of school closures, that was in April 2020, almost 91% of the students around the world were out of schools. Education systems responded with distance learning solutions, like as this picture suggests, with little training or planning, the whole generation of teachers effectively, like they just upskilled themselves for the sake of their students. So we responded with distance learning solutions, and all of which offered less or more imperfect substitutes for classroom instructions, while many poorer countries opted for radio and television lessons. 55% of low income, 73% of lower middle income, and 93% of upper middle income countries adopted for online learning platforms for all, whether it was primary, secondary, or university education. Moving on, these were the kind of scenarios that we saw across the world. The use of IT and other technologies in education enabled us to be quick and innovative in terms of supporting our students for learning. The pandemic also accelerated our reliance on digital tools, which enabled our children to continue learning when the educational institutions were closed down. Some observations that I would share in these 5 minutes. We could see that the mainstream welcomed the online learning. If I have to say something about my own house, like my kids enjoyed learning online, like with their flexibilities, learning in their pajamas and so on, right? While the student community has always been keen, as the slide says, to explore digital learning tools. They are so fast, so quick when it comes to uh, acquiring and using newer technological devices is concerned. But it was again, like bit of apprehension was expected from parents and it was seen. However, all of us began noticing a noteworthy shift in this dynamic when the pandemic set in. As soon as the e-commerce giants opened, supplying the goods, like the highest purchase commodity was mobile phones and the tablets, whether it was India or the other countries. The long-term impact on education, if we look at it, I would focus on the side note first, like as the National Education Policy 2020, as we call it, NEP 2020 for the Indian education system, it addresses the accessibility of education through online learning. And we are taking a welcome step through this for making sure that every child in our nation receives quality learning opportunities. So in terms of long-term impact on education, yes, online learning has served as a short-term solution to ensure that learning does not stop. And as we could see, most of the universities across the world have started one or the other online course. For example, IIM Ahmedabad, if I have to mention one, they have started so many online courses within just past 1 year. My own university, Gujarat Technological University, has ventured into it, and so on. The personalized learning aspect, it is definitely a great tool in personalizing and visualizing the learning of students. As Brent was discussing the feedback and fun, it would be a great way to connect with your students, learn what they want to learn where they are finding issues, and help them. It also makes the students curious to learn more. It helps us imparting knowledge much more efficiently, definitely, to our students. Couple of lessons that we learned and we should keep in mind while designing the future course of action when it comes to imparting education. Definitely availability of technology is necessary, but perhaps, it's not sufficient condition for effective remote learning. We need to keep thinking and exploring the ways we can make it more and more fruitful. An example could be, there were thousands and millions of webinars conducted perhaps during past 3 years. There was, like sudden uprise in conduction of those webinars, and we could see people attending webinars, like through the mobile phones kept inside their pockets. So the technology has to be taken seriously in terms of gaining the knowledge, and the real utilization has to be there. So the impact of technology in education remains a challenge for many. Somewhere, for example, in the chat box, we had a participant from Nigeria, like sharing his or her issues, right? No access to sufficient resources for conducting the research. Where there is resource available, perhaps the guidance is lagging, but the internet is here to help. internet is here to connect us. And we constantly, as I said, need to explore, experiment, and improve. There was a threat that, oh my God, teachers are recording their videos, publishing them online. So once everything is available online, where would they go? But it has proven that teachers are more critical than ever. And regardless of learning modality and available technology, we play a critical role. We need to be with them all the time so that they are on the right track. And regular and effective pre-service and ongoing teacher professional development would play a key role, perhaps, wherein the conferences like this are going to be the key driving force because they enable us to connect with our peers from across the world. For example, tomorrow we have a networking session where all the participants would be turning on their cameras, sharing their innovative practices, sharing their challenges, and then there might be somebody from USA, from UK, from Canada, from Bangladesh or Nepal who would come forward with some kind of solution, right? So they are critical, but they need to improve. Education definitely is an intense human interaction endeavor. So we need to keep interacting with our audience. Yesterday, my evening and Eric's morning, I was talking to him, and Eric says, 6 of his students were not leaving him, like they wanted some sort of guidance, some sort of solutions to their questions. So interaction and connection are quite important. So we need to establish the meaningful two-way interactions with our students. We need to be approachable, and that's the key. Perhaps we can help our students move on. And using this most appropriate technology for the local context, along with the adjusted curriculum, is critical for enabling effective engagement between both the teachers as well as the students. And as I mentioned in the beginning of my part, parents are the key partners of teachers, right? So if we have the flexibility of connecting with them, definitely we should be, so that the overall all-round development of our students occurs. If you look at the future of education, there are hundreds and thousands of videos talking about the 21st century skills that we need to impart so that our students are successful, whether they go for the job hunt or whether they are on their entrepreneurship journey. So skills like social skills, teamwork, and other important skills such as empathy can also be learned when you are in group. So we need to blend it, right? You impart the skills online, you sit with them, make them work in groups, and that would definitely help us achieve amazing results. So the final statement says the schools are here to stay, but I think teachers and students are realizing that some things can be better learned online, and blending is the way out. Thank you very much for giving me your time, Atul. Now we can move forward. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tarun sir, for throwing light on the lessons that we have learned and how the life has, completely transformed from what it was before and what it is today, because we are indeed living in a different world today, post-COVID. Let me now invite our second expert speaker, Professor Eric Roth, Master Lecturer from University of Southern California, USA. And before we request him to share his views, we would like to introduce him through a brief AV.
Eric H. Roth teaches international graduate students the pleasures and perils of academic writing and public speaking in English at the University of Southern California. Since 1992, Roth has taught English to high school, community college, adult, and university students. Highlights of his career include teaching the first Saturday morning citizenship class in Santa Monica, directing the CES Adult Education Center, working with international students in summer IEP programs at UCLA Extension, teaching USC engineering students in Madrid, Spain, and Paris, and directing the APU International High School in Vietnam. He is a member of the USC faculty and numerous professional organizations, including the California Association of Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, the International Communication Association, the International Professors Project, and Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages.
We are indeed honored to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everyone for your kind attention. I now request Professor Eric Roth, who has been very kind enough for accepting our invitation to be one of the panelists for this panel discussion. And he has also been a source of inspiration as he is the conference chair of this international virtual conference. So we request you to take over, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that excessively kind introduction. Appreciate it. I'm an old man, and I still remember dozens of phone numbers from my childhood. But when with my friends, my two close friends, I don't know their phone numbers. So I don't know if I'm getting old and I've just forgotten, getting a little dumb, or if I'm being more efficient in the use of my memory. And technology, I just kind of outsource those phone numbers to my iPhone. There are a lot of things like that. And I think that's what technology allows us to do, as you showed in your beautiful review of all the words that have gained new meaning and purpose. I want to give a couple of examples from my own career and different thoughts I've had at different times and different responses, and then talk about the current moment and some possible steps forward, tentative, I think. One, I remember when we first had email, and it seemed so amazing that you could take a message from one side of the world and deliver it exactly to the right person on the other side of the world. Now I get annoyed at how many emails I get every day because there are just hundreds. I think about it, the second thing about email is now on my email, Google offers me 3 possible responses automatically. It's no longer just gone to offering suggestions on spelling corrections. It's not just identifying good mistakes in grammar and maybe missing article or a subject-verb agreement, but now it's even giving me content suggestions. And how do I feel about that? And different days, I feel differently. Some ways I really appreciate, because I have so much email, the fact that Google's given me a friendly phrase. Often it echoes back phrases I've used in prior emails, and it's made my life a little simpler. I usually personalize it by putting in, the name of the person. If it's thank you, I'll say thank you, Tarun, my friend. I'll try to personalize it in the answer, but it's offered that automatically. I don't know how much I want to outsource my creativity, my personality, my life to technology. But I know technology is allowing us to speak today thousands of miles away. It's amazing. And I don't want to forget that modern miracle either. It's a cliche that languages are living and they're always changing, but so are our education systems. And so are our expectations for what we want our education system to do. What is the purpose? Right now, I'm meeting you on a computer. You might be on a smartphone, but I don't know what kind of physical device we're going to be using in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And they estimate in America, and I imagine elsewhere too, that half of the jobs, the careers, are not even known for 10 years from now. We're living in a period of exceptional change. So I don't want to be too attached to any one tool. I'm an English teacher. So I constantly in the English classroom, I want to call back to the essentials. And I don't think it's just the mechanics. I don't think it's error correction. I don't think it's English to survive. I think it's English to thrive and English to develop and express our personalities. I love the idea that at MIT EDT University focuses on the holistic personality, because I think that's really essential in the age of algorithms. We can lose that. I'm very lucky. I teach small classes. I don't know how I would teach a class of 200 students and be able to use some of the approaches I do. Having said that, I appreciate the way that Google Docs allows me to edit in real time and share with students the correction, as our friend, Mr. Warner, Professor Warner indicated. There's another side, of course, and that the translation tools are getting better and better. And so sometimes students may ask if the translation tools improve so much, or even if they're only 80% right now, and 80% in Los Angeles. We have a lot of immigrants that not only survive, but thrive with 80% English. So what standards are we aspiring to? What's the level of expertise that we ask for? And I always go back to audience, context, purpose. What are our aspirations? What are our students' aspirations? Do they aspire to work at Google? The standards are much higher. If they aspire to work in a restaurant as a manager, that's a different question. If they want to be a host at the restaurant, that's another question. On the translation tools, they may become so excellent, they may paradoxically reduce the motivation to become students and to study English. I hope that's not the case. And somebody's out of fear of plagiarism. Some of my colleagues have totally abandoned using any kind of written submitted papers because they're so afraid of the ability of smart software programs like Grammarly or Google or to quickly produce very high quality summaries. Here's the deal. I think we may want to go back to pen and paper. We may do that for diagnostic essays and for selective purposes, but it's a mistake. We can't do that. We can't move back even if we wanted to, and we would be betraying the students' possibilities. So what can we do to motivate the students so they don't take advantage of the software? Well, I have redesigned a lot of my assignments. In my advanced writing class, I used to spend about 6 weeks just teaching summaries. But if you can get a high quality summary from Google or some other software very rapidly, I don't want to play I'm not a very good policeman, if you will. I'd rather be a coach. So now I'm just going to I'm going to move into summary evaluations as soon as possible. I'm going to ask for lit reviews earlier. I'm going to ask for annotated bibliographies much sooner. I'm also doing a few other things. I've decided that writing should not only be a solitary activity, but a social activity. And we heard from Professor Warner how he does communicative feedback and peer reviews. I do something similar. I do a lot of checklists so that they know exactly what they're looking for. Are there 3 illustrations? Are there 2 quotes? Are they cited appropriately? I like to do assignments that I hope are intrinsically motivating. It sounds silly, but when you do restaurant reviews and you can have the restaurant review for the class, you can go over adjective word order, subjective to objective. You can also, students love talking about their experiences, whether they're a cook or they're going out to restaurants. And then, of course, we can repurpose those for Yelp reviews, a real world context where they get feedback. I think it behooves us to put more focus on intrinsic motivation and using technology and how it adds to our students. I don't think we can really ban all these assistive technologies. I think AI is here, and AI is going to continue to exponentially expand its reach, its impact, and to change and transform how we live our lives, not only as teachers, but as citizens and consumers. Given that context, I want us to engage with the technology. So some of my assignments, and I want us to do like product reviews where we're using critical thinking in a practical context. I want to think about returning to humanistic education as a key component, reminding students that we want to deepen ourselves and we want to develop our potential. And I think there means more communication, not just being totally functional, although that's clearly an aspect. And many of our students want language to communicate and to succeed in the workplace. But I want them to go beyond that too. So I think we need to find ways to try to ask students to reflect on their experiences, to think about their feelings, to support their opinions, to ask them what's the upstream evidence for their ideas and what are the downstream consequences of those concepts, to inspire one another and encourage one another, because none of us know how the world is moving, and the world is moving very, very rapidly. And in our classrooms, I think we need to embrace technology, even as we don't know exactly where it's going. In the era of AI, I think we have to do what we can to return to the noblest and original ideals of teachers and kind of build stronger student-teacher relationships. Thank you for listening, and I hope some of those were helpful.
That was a very well articulated message, sir. Thank you very much. You very impressively articulated how technology has made this world a small global village. And you also highlighted the importance of holistic education and the miracles of technological tools for collaborative writing, translation, and the list goes on like this. And especially the way ahead in light of artificial intelligence and machine learning that we nowadays focus on. Thank you very much once again. Well, friends, our third panelist and expert speaker is Professor Dr. Ramesh Sharma, Director, HRDC, Ambedkar University, Delhi, India. I'm sure he has much to contribute to the discussion. Let me quickly introduce him through a small AV.
Dr. Ramesh Chander Sharma is Associate Professor at the School of Global Affairs as well as Director of the Human Resource Development Center at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi. He has previously taught at various institutions not only in India but across the globe, such as the University of Guyana, University of Fiji, UNEB Brazil, and Wawasan Open University, Malaysia. He has also worked as the Regional Director of Indira Gandhi National Open University. He has published 8 books and has presented at numerous national and international conferences. E-learning, instructional design, open educational resources, open and distance learning, teacher education, educational technology, and educational research are his areas of interest and expertise. We are honored to have Dr. Ramesh Chander Sharma with us. We welcome him to the ELT Summit 2022.
Thank you. I now invite Professor Dr. Ramesh Sharma, sir. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Namaste all to everyone. And hello, Eric. Nice to see you.
Hello. Pleasure's mine.
Good. Thank you so much. And let me just, okay, what I'm going to do, I knew that when we talk about technology in ELT, the speakers before me, and maybe even the rest of the sessions, they will be talking about the tools and others. And I know that some of our colleagues, they have been so, promptly are adding messages into the chat box about what kind of technology tools they are using. So I thought that I won't speak about those kind of things. But as an incentive, I don't know how many of you know about fog index. It is you can make a Wikipedia search on that. Fog index is a very good application for refining your writing skills about. It tells you that what is the difficulty level of your passage, whether if a fourth grader can understand it or not, or an adult person, and how you can change your words so that language becomes simplified. That is the main aspect of language. It has to be understood by the common person, not by the people of the rank of Shakespeare and Winston Churchill, or those people, or even our own Indian Mr. Shashi Tharoor. I remember that there was one cartoon in a newspaper that one person, another minister of very high cabinet rank, is sitting in his room, surrounded by staff members, and Mr. Shashi Tharoor enters his room. And then the caption was there that, oh my God, from where he has come today, I don't have dictionary with me, because he will speak so articulated and complex language. So I thought that let me select a topic which I believe that is not known to many of us, and it is very essential. And at the first, I will say that kindly pardon me that this topic, although it is for language communication and those skills, but it has its implications with other fields as well. So because it is related to to our lives, our human beings, our fellow persons from there. So let me just share my screen, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, I think you can now see it in full sense. Okay, first of all, a little exercise, and I believe that those of you who are from India, you may be knowing about the famous epic Mahabharata, and in that there is one instance. So these are the three questions which the Yaksha asked Yudhishthir when all the other brothers, they were not able to bring the water because they were all thirsty when they were wandering in the jungles. And whoever types the correct answer into the chat box for these questions, I had a secret talk with the chair of this session, Dr. Atul, and he promised that the person who will give the right answers, there is a 3-bedroom set in Lonavala booked for him or her. So that is there. So the question was that what is heavier than earth, what is higher than heavens, faster than wind? I think everybody can answer this question. What is faster than wind? And what is more numerous than straws? These are the philosophical things, as per our mythology. Now kindly scratch your brain and try to give the answer. But I know that I have only 8 to 10 minutes, so let me not create this suspense furthermore. The answers were that the mother is heavier than earth. The placement of father is higher than heavens. Mind is faster than wind. Through thinking, you can teleport to you anywhere in the universe or anything. And our concerns, our issues, our worries, they are numerous. They are more than all the straws in the world, in the universe there. So this brings us to the power of mind. Everything is controlled with power of mind. There are some people who will say that, oh, in my heart, I was thinking. But the biologist and the physician doctors, they know that the heart works as a pump, but it is the game by the mind. Although very recently, this is strange, I attended a session by one of the Indian Nobel laureate. He was saying that the heart also generates some kind of wave frequencies, and I'm yet to research that, because he was saying that the heart waves are 10 times powerful than the waves by the brain. So brain, actual, and you must have, everybody, I think perhaps must have seen those. Now the 4th instance of this series has also come, in which you just attach something and upload the material into the brain, and the Keanu Reeves then can become Bruce Lee, can become any kind of personality they want to do that. But what is happening around the world is that even these things, they are not a matter of science fiction only. Even it is reported that in China, the employees' brain waves, they are being monitored into the military, into the factories, to think that whether they are thinking in favor of government or against the government. These are the news which I have taken. So you can use the brain power to control the machines. So what is brain actually? What happens inside the brain? The chemical charge, the electric current, it passes, and that happens. And there have been, experiments in which we can see the brain electrical activity. And perhaps means those of you who are from India, you may be knowing that when in 1984 Mrs. Indira Gandhi was assassinated, it is said that the doctors tried to revive her even after 8 hours of her physical death, because they were receiving the signals from the brain, and then those efforts were going on. So even our brain, to some time for further after the physical death of the person, it still works from there. So how can we exploit the, just a minute, I think this Zoom, it is taking up some space. So let me shift it to some side. This is the presenter's options. It comes and it takes screen. Okay, so how to, and there have been things in which that using our brain power, we can control the objects around us. And there have been questions. We always refer to the brain that it is the computer of the human body, things which controls all other things. And there are certain designated areas which pertain to certain kind of function, whether it is voluntary, involuntary, or something that goes with that. Now, this is a serious issue, that what happens to the persons who have some kind of neuromuscular impairment, and that can happen due to some accident. And particularly in this study, there are these number of people, they experience a stroke or suffer some kind of injury or something, and then the patients, they lose their ability to move some body part or something. Those things, they happen, and it puts. And in 1791, you can see that it goes up dot language. The Galvani first showed that there are certain things, if you apply certain electric current, the dead frogs, the legs, they move, and because it causes the muscle twitch. And then over the field of, means in the neurology, etc., in the field of medicine, these researches, they have, so we now know that there are electrical muscle stimulation, neuromuscular functional electrical stimulation, and those kind of things, they are possible. So this is the how we work, or how our brain sends. So we have the hand, if we want to write something, brain is sending the signal through some nerves or there. But what happens if that connection gets cut from somewhere? Can we bypass that with the help of some kind of chip or processor or something as a connector to there, so that that movement can happen? So this is how the brain functions. It generates certain kind of signals, and those signals, then they become the important thing here. And this field is called as the brain-computer interface, and how we can connect our brain to a machine. So we have certain kind of those impulses, we call famously known as EEG or ECG or those. So that signal is captured and processed, and then based on what kind of haptic or ocular or auditory or something, then that goes into that. And this is done through various forms. Like we have through the electrodes, which can be placed on the surface, say like surface of the brain on the top as a cap, or on the brain, means you cut open the skull and put on the brain, and inside the brain. So it brings the three kind of scenarios from there. And these are the, here you can see the first one on the left is putting it on the skull with the help of some kind of a cap, and then on the brain and inside the brain, you put them through the signal. So these are the three EEG waves: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. And they are very, very important. Why? Because they perform these kind of functions. So these occur during the sleep or when the person is in coma. So those are the delta waves. Theta waves are related to emotional stress, alpha with the mental imagery, beta is with mental activity, mu is for intention of movement, lambda. Now you see that. That's why if during accident, if some damage is caused to brain, how it can affect our working or something from there. Now, what is happening around us? And these are the real cases. Even the richest person on earth, Elon Musk, he wants to meld the human brain with computers. The works are going on into that. NeuroPace announces new capacity category they code for electrocardiography for the implanted neuro. And particularly in this case of epilepsy, as many as 1/3 have the seizures. They are not controlled with existing, only FDA-approved medical devices. They are being used for that. A little bit quick history. It was in the 1924 when the first brain activity was measured by EEG. And then very soon this field of BCI emerged. Even in the early 70s, the experiments were done in the University of Washington School of Medicine in Seattle, where they showed that even the monkey could learn to control the deflection of a biofeedback arm. And that was a big success for us. And then Professor Warwick, he created that, you must have seen that Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator 2 and the Judgment Day. And in that, and in fact, that was a joke because we were talking about COVID. There was a image being circulated on the internet that this hand was there, and he says that this happens to my hand when I wash it 20 times a day for 20 seconds using that. But this is the arm in which through sensors, the movement is happening. And that brings the interesting things that how we can take advantage of this. So through the data acquisition of those waves, we process them, and then with the help of translation algorithms related to visualization, sonification or audification, and then haptic, in which something, and then ocular, olfactory nodes related to smell, etc. See the potential for humanity, those people who are suffering from. This is one of the successful experiments. Even I'm a group of member of a group in Anadolu University, Turkey, in which the experiments have been done that with the help of your eye movement, don't touch any keyboard or any mouse, as Dr. Atul was saying that mouse was animal previously. Now, by looking at the monitor, you can move the cursor. This happens. So this is the experiment, and let me show you the potential. It doesn't involve any voluntary motor function, but it has a huge application for cognitive functions, where we can interact with the external environment. It has great applications for these kind of disabilities, autism, aphasia, Bruce Willis, the latest example media is from, regularly talking about brain stroke, spinal injury, neurodegenerative disease, etc. So P300 signal is the most important, which becomes here, and it is a big growing market which is coming up because of the number of brain disorder patients increasing. Advances are coming up, sensor applications in the medical field. Means you must have seen in the washrooms, you don't have to touch the faucet or the tap. You just have that sensor and the water flows from there. So these sensors are everywhere around us. The cameras and those things. The technical challenges are that the cost, the infrastructure rate, and those things. But it has a lot of opportunities for paralyzed brain disorders, for smart home control systems, physically challenged individuals, and particularly in defense, gaming, and those things. So this is done through various kind of hardware and software, which are the open hardware, and then there are this open web open software from there. The three type of these things they happen: invasive, in which we put the electrodes inside the brain; partially invasive, in which we put it on the brain; and non-invasive on the head from there. So medical, home, virtual gaming, and communication and control. With the help of these kind of technological signal capturing, it happens. And the end user are in the field of education, health, defense, and many other things here. These are the scenarios which are taking advantage from there. So communications by thought, this is making it possible. And it is helping us in language communication as well. So these are some of the applications. Okay, this is for prosthetics. And there are the successful experiments which have been conducted. Even non-invasive brain actuated control of mobile robot by human EEG You don't need to, push button or something. By thinking, your chair will go which direction, etc. It opens the possibility for physically disabled people to use this portable, easy brain machine control. Now, the examples. Music control. You write, you create certain notes from there. Just user gazes at the icons and it captures from there. Using brainwaves to control computers and machines, and then developing BCI technologies to restore the communication among the people. So there are certain controllers available, and like this is kind of handband, which improves the focus by training behavior of certain brainwave frequencies. So see the implication for learning something from there, and then controlling with thoughts and less those things. So this here in the marketing brainology, a firm, they also studied it, how with the eye tracking and those commercials, they impact the market and the end users from there. And this is another kind of equipment, a cap, which the people, they can wear it. This is quite interesting. MIT, this is the USA MIT. Dr. Atul is from Indian MIT. And here this postdoctoral student is supposed to develop that hat. If you wear it, it says that we can find out what you are thinking. So that becomes quite an interesting thing from there. So how we can upload the knowledge into the brain, in the frontage of human neuron. So this is their research center in which these kind of researches are going on. So how with the help of that, you can attach and make it something. So here, these are for the communication people. A man paralyzed from the neck down uses AI brain implants to write out text messages just by thinking something and then creating a text message from there. So 90 means 90 characters per minute, faster than any non-brain computer interface from there. These electrodes, they allow them to click, and there is a video available on that. So those appears on the screen from there. And this is how brain to text communication via handwriting. So those people who have lost the ability to either to move or to speak, then it helps them from there. And then as Professor Eric was also speaking about the potential of AI, this is impacting it in a very huge. So the machine learning algorithms and those things, they can capture and using those brain waves into the string of numbers that can be encoded into the sentences. So that is the real thing. And so these are the kind of electrodes which are being used. And here they transforming brain waves into words with the help of AI. So you can have their blog writing or something. So with this, I stop here. Thank you so much. This is the last point here, that nowadays we all are talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and metaverse, those things. I'm also doing some research on virtual reality applications. One of my paper has already been published in IEEE publication PhD. And in fact, this is quite interesting that in the field of medicine, Professor Bai and their colleagues, they have suggested that this year, 2022, be declared as the year of metaverse in medicine. And that it shows the potential for even the language acquisition and like speaking, communication, and those things. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for that very thought-provoking presentation. And thank you very much for helping us know about the Yaksha Prashna, the question that reminds us the principles of Matru Dev Bhav and Pitru Dev Bhav in the Indian context.
I hope
you also
have
highlighted.
I hope you have brought some winner.
You also highlighted, various aspects of neuromuscular disorders and how the brain functions. So every point that you talked about showed us the other side of the coin that we also need to, keep in mind. And the BCI model helped us understand how brain and computer interfaces, can work. And probably something like this could also be brought to the ELT classroom, where we can engage our students in a variety of research studies that we can carry out. Well, friends, since we are left with a couple of minutes only, I'm confident that you would all agree that it was pretty enriching listening to all our expert panelists as part of this panel discussion. Let's now move on to the most exciting part of this panel discussion, that is question and answer session. And I believe that asking the right question is more challenging than answering it. And therefore, we request all the participants not to miss this opportunity, although we will not be in a position to take all the questions, but we can pass on them to all our panelists. So let me quickly go through the questions that we have received in the Q&A box. There is a question by Ms. Shriya Sampada. I think this question is about digital divide. So I request Professor Eric Roth to answer. The question is, technology is presently available everywhere, but how can we bridge the gap among students who have no idea about technology in teaching the English language? That is, rural areas where there is no access to the internet, especially in the Indian context that she's talking about. So over to
I'm
you.
probably the least qualified of the three gentlemen to answer that question, having the least experience. But I don't think that we have to be afraid of using, our old-fashioned critical reasoning and pen and paper approaches. A lot of students, when I teach them how to paraphrase, I find it helpful to just put away all things. I just read the paper, turn it over. What do you remember? What's the main idea? What was the structure? What was the style? And that sometimes is easier, even for people who have become addicted to just doing copy and paste and then modifying to do effective paraphrasing. Well, I think we take some step back. Sometimes we're able to achieve great things with pen and paper. Having said that, as Dr. Sharma's presentation illuminates, we're living in a time where technology is just proliferating and expanding in so many different ways. I mean, as I understand it, they're trying to find ways to take brain waves and go directly to text minus the paper. That's an astonishing level. In rural India, I think we have to, take advantage of pen and paper memorization and our traditional gray cells in our mind. I don't have a good answer. I'm going to turn it over to two more experienced people than myself.
Okay, I can quickly add to that if you are looking for free, because there are some questions about cost-free technology by Durga in the Q&A. This Moodle box, it is open hardware and very low cost, but it becomes an internet hotspot. It doesn't require internet for itself. It becomes an internet hotspot, and it is by Moodle. I know many of you know about this LMS. And the another one is Hemingway app. It is very good, interesting app in refining your writing skills about it. It gives you a complete analysis of your assignment or your essay or your write-up, and then it tells you what you can change to make it more impressive.
I also like Youglish as a wonderful free tool. I mean, there are many free tools and free versions. I'm particularly fond of Google Docs and Youglish. And they're both getting far, far better all the time.
Yes.
I mean, Google Docs of 2022 in August of 2022 is far superior to Google Docs of 2021 in August. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. As we advocate the use of technology, it's very important. But when we look at this digital divide, what we also need to keep in mind that technology cannot substitute everything that we do in the classroom, because it is just a tool. And in terms of getting kids working together, motivating them, I think the teacher is the most important one. And even in the absence of technology, teacher can really play a very crucial role and motivate students. Another question, we will just take one or two more questions and then we will close this session. There is a question by Dr. Haribhau. He is asking, how do we cater to the needs of the mixed ability classroom as a language teacher?
It's a great question. I would start with the needs analysis so that I really know who's in the classroom. So one of the things I always do in the beginning of the class is have them fill in an English language learner history survey. So I know what their prior experiences are. I can see from their responses their level of English. And you have to individualize as much as possible. In the United States, we don't fund adult education as well as we should. And so we don't do a very good job of the diagnostic tools are very rough and they're rushed and rather arbitrary. So most classes end up being mixed level constantly. Ideally, one would have multiple sets of different textbooks. And then you can give, some textbooks for this student, some for this group, for that group. But I know that's a luxury that we often don't have sufficient supply. I think as much as we can individualize. Also back to writing as both a social activity and a solitary activity, and having them create the material in class. So if you're writing about your hometown and I'm writing about my hometown and we're at two different levels, we're asked the same questions, but we're responding maybe with full sentences, maybe with partial phrases. That can often be very helpful.
Thank you. Anything from other panelists?
Yeah, I will just very quickly add that nowadays, with the help of adaptive learning algorithms, it is possible to have personalized learning. So those who are intelligent, those who are little, on the other side of the spectrum, these kind of things they can adjust. And the Duolingo is one of the good examples if you want to learn. It asks you what is your current level and accordingly it offers you the content. And then AlphaGo made it possible, those things, because nowadays software is a learning. And let me add a very interesting thing when we say that technology cannot replace teachers. I think that is the incomplete sentence. We should say that the current technology cannot replace teachers.
Right.
Why I'm saying it? Because very recently, you must all have heard about how Google has fired one of its employee because he took the interview of Lambda, the most advanced conversation agent developed by Google. And that software said that I am sentient in nature, means I have feelings. Now the software, if developing anger, happiness, or other kind of emotions, very soon we may be having machine teachers. So technology of current times cannot replace, but for future, you don't know.
Right, absolutely. And let me just say, the question I omitted was, is AI a tool, an assistant, a partner, or a rival of English teachers? And I can imagine, PowerPoint raised the level of presentations from, there used to be an extreme gap. And so it kind of elevated the bottom significantly and improved communication. I appreciate it. However, I chose not to use PowerPoint. Why? Here, I want to emphasize that we don't need to become always technologically dependent. I mean, obviously, we're dependent on Zoom to have this conversation, but I want technology to support the best interactions. I don't think technology can replace teachers today. I don't think great technology in 5 years is going to replace very good or strong or excellent English teachers. Maybe in 20 years. But I also think that, AI may replace copywriters. It may replace screenwriters. AI may displace entire fields that right now I just don't think we're prepared. And it's not our fault. But I think that the AI poses astonishing possibilities to fundamentally and dramatically, profoundly shift almost every element of our lives, including the education system.
Let me encourage upon that time because we already, I think, 8 minutes past, but very quickly, there is Professor Philip Marker. He has patented an algorithm, and a few years ago, by that time, he had already 1 million books on Amazon.com for sale. And that algorithm, he gives the keywords, and within 30 minutes, the algorithm writes a 300-page book for it. And
Wow.
already GPT-3 is there, which is by OpenAI, a company of Elon Musk. GPT-3 and GPT-4 is the advanced version. If you tell this software, it can create an app for you. It can write essays for you. So all of you who are teachers here, be very careful that you need to identify whether this assignment coming to you is written by the software or by the student themselves. Google
And that's-
about GPT-4.
And because of that concern about plagiarism prevention and all that, I don't want to have a situation where students are using AI to write the paper, and then you're submitting it to an AI software to evaluate whether it's real, and then we end up saying they didn't learn much, but both of us are happy because I'm employed and they got the grade they wanted and get the degree they want, but there's not a lot of human learning. So given that difficulty, my response is we have to inspire people. We have to make it so they intrinsically want to do the writing assignments. They want to intrinsically give the presentations because they find it interesting and worthwhile. So we have to engage their interest. We have to engage their experiences, their feelings, their beliefs, and give them the tools to evaluate and establish what's the evidence for, what are the consequences of their beliefs, that kind of thing. I think we have to get back to that human dynamic because the technology can replace us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I wish we could continue this very engaging discussion ahead, but since we are running short of time, let me quickly take this opportunity to place on record our heartiest thanks to all the three expert speakers, Professor Dr. Tarun Patel, Professor Eric Roth, and Professor Dr. Ramesh Sharma. Sir, thank you very much. Special thanks to all the participants for their active listening and participation.